guitar player at Fame, we wrote some songs together. His name was Junior Lowe. We had this song that we had just finished writing. The name of it was Greenwood, Mississippi. And we both agreed, you know, this thing would be a hit for John Fogerty or Little Richard. It was just kind of right in between those two. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Little Richard comes to the studio. I was leader of the session, and told him, I said, me and Junior Lowe, we wrote a song. He said, Travis, I want to hear the song. So back then had it on cassette. So I go out to my pickup and I played it for him. He said, Travis, I want to record that. So I said, okay. So I went in, I told Rick Hall, I said, Little Richard's wanting to cut Greenwood, Mississippi. So Rick said, great. So we started cutting it. We got about 15 minutes into the session, and I could see Richard in the vocal booth. He kept looking over at me and kind of shaking his head. And finally, he came out, and he came on and he said, Travis, where's that music that you was singing with? Because I had put the demo vocal down. I said, well, Richard, that was my demo, you know. He said, I want to sing on that music track. So I went in and I told Rick, or peed Rick off, but we put Little Richard's vocal on my demo track, and it became the record, and it was his first chart record he had had since the Tutti Frutti days. He had retired from rock and roll and started preaching, and then he came back to Fame in 1970, and we did the Real Thing album was the name of this album. And he asked me, he said, do you think my music is the devil's music? And I said, no, when I hear Tutti Frutti or Good Golly Miss Molly, I just think of good times, you know. And he told me, he said, with Travis, I want you to put me a good Southern rock and roll band together, the best you can get. Some of the guys that played on the Real Thing album, I'm going to start back singing rock and roll. And he said, I've got a scripture book that I've printed up. And he said, my brothers, Peyton and Robert, will be out in the crowd passing these books out. He said, if I can just save 1 or 2 people a show, then I feel justified in singing rock and roll again. So I said, well, that sounds good, Richard. And sure enough, man, we'd go to Sweden, there'd be more books. We'd stand there where we was getting off the plane, they'd be unloading them books. So we played Vegas. The people there came to Richard. They said, Richard, we understand you pass these scripture books out on your shows. You can't do it here. And he said, oh. So they left, and he looked at me, and he said, they don't know me. So that night the show, his 2 brothers out there passing out the scripture books. So Richard was a trip.